This is Barry Zalma on insurance. Today, I'd like to speak about the ethical obligations of an independent medical examiner. Medical examiners have established their own codes of ethics with regard to an IME and are obligated by those codes to report their findings fairly and accurately. The American Board of Independent Medical Examiners has published the following Code of Ethics. Physicians shall be honest in all communications, respect the rights of the examinees and other participants, and treat these individuals with dignity and respect. At the medical examination, 1. Introduce himself or herself to the examinee as the examining physician. 2. Advise the examinee they are seeing him or her for an independent medical examination, and the information provided will be used in the assessment and presented in a report. 3. Provide the examinee with the name of the party requesting the examination, such as an insurance company, a claims adjuster, or a private investigator. 4. Advise the examinee that no treating physician-patient relationship will be established. 5. Explain the examination procedure. 6. Provide adequate draping and privacy if the examinee needs to remove clothing for the examination. 7. Refrain from derogatory comments. And 8. Close the examination by telling the examinee that the examination is over and ask if there is further information the examinee would like to reach conclusions that are based on facts and sound medical knowledge, and for which the independent medical examiner has adequate qualifications to address. The IMA should also be prepared to address conflict in a professional and constructive manner, never accept a fee for services which is dependent on writing a report favorable to the referral service, and maintain confidentiality consistent with the applicable legal jurisdiction. An adjuster should understand the appropriate use of the IME based upon the ethical obligations of the medical examiner. The adjuster who follows the rules profiled by the American Board of Independent Medical Examiners, which are similar to those posited by the International Association of Special Investigations Units, the IASIU, should receive appropriate, independent medical advice. The adjuster and, if necessary, the SIU investigator must be dedicated to, quote, promoting a coordinated effort within the industry to combat insurance fraud, providing education and training for insurance investigators, developing greater awareness of the insurance fraud problem, encouraging high professional standards of conduct among insurance investigators, and supporting legislation that acts as a deterrent to the crime of insurance fraud. When an IME is retained, the insurer should advise the IME of his obligations in writing in the following manner. Quote, you have been retained by the ABC Insurance Company to conduct an independent medical examination of the claimant and report to me concerning the injury sustained, the present condition, your prognosis, and your evaluation of any continuing treatment needed by the claimant. To assist you in that regard, we enclose as complete as possible all of the medical records of the claimant of which we are aware. The purpose of your examination is to thoroughly review all relevant facts within your field of expertise so we may determine whether the injuries reported by the claimant was caused by the accident, and if so, the extent of the injuries, so that we may properly evaluate his claim against our insured. We expect your examination to provide the company with sufficient facts to assist it in its obligation to make a decision with regard to the claim. The company intends to deal fairly and in good faith with its insured and the claimant, and has therefore retained you to thoroughly examine the claimant so that the company may discover the extent of its obligations. We therefore request that you complete your examination as soon as possible within the confines of your professional responsibility and report to me the following: 1. The current condition of the claimant. 2. The cause, if available, of the injuries or illnesses claimed. 3. The treatment necessary to resolve the injuries. 4. Whether full recovery is possible. 5. Whether the claimant has any permanent disability. 6. Whether the claimant can perform the normal duties of his profession, and if not, your prognosis when the claimant will be able to return to work. 7. Whether the claimant can perform the duties of any profession, and if not, your prognosis when the claimant will be able to do any type of work. 8. Your best estimate of the cost of future medical treatment you believe is necessary to allow the claimant to recover. The adjuster should never instruct an IME what findings the insurer requires. Conceal from the IME any information the insurer possesses that might affect the IME report. Misrepresent to the IME any facts. Never advise the IME that the adjuster suspects fraud. Never fail to provide the IME with all available medical records of the claimant or the insured who is being examined. Never obtain the reports of more than one IME if the first report does not support a finding of fraud, nor use only one IME for all independent medical examinations. The ethical adjuster or SIU investigator who needs an IME to properly evaluate a claim will always retain the services of an IME in writing. Always use in the course of his or her professional life multiple IME physicians and chiropractors who have proved that they follow the ethical obligations of members of the American Board of Independent Medical Examiners, even if they are not members themselves, and always provide all available medical records to the IME. Insurance is a business of the utmost good faith. The IME is a tool that the ethical adjuster or SIU investigator must never abuse. Although insurers are frequent victims of fraud, they must treat everyone they come in contact with as honest until proven by a preponderance of the available evidence to be a fraud. The purpose of the IME is to verify the extent of injury, not to establish fraud. If the extent of injury found by the IME is different from that presented in the claim, the SIU or independent counsel should be contacted to evaluate the results of the IME and determine if a fraud investigation is required or if the IME report might even be sufficient as part of a fraud investigation. The American Medical Association Code of Medical Ethics provides that despite an IME physician's ties to a third party, a limited patient doctor-physician relationship should be considered to exist between an IME physician and the examinee. This is the AMA Code of Medical Ethics. The adjuster should review the docket of plaintiff's employment discrimination case, for example, in the Eastern District of California, which would reveal that the court ordered the IME. Specifically, a court order provided that plaintiff shall appear for an independent medical examination by Dr. Mark Mills, MD, on a specific date and at a specific place. Moreover, once plaintiff balked at attending the IME, plaintiff's allegations that defendant's conduct caused her numerous physical and mental health-related injuries put her mental state genuinely in the controversy. This was Bell v. United States, a 2018 decision of the District of Columbia Court. To fulfill the obligations required of a claims person with regard to the use of an IME, the adjuster should obtain before the IME the medical records with an authorization signed by the claimant and should visit the medical facility in person to verify its existence as a functioning health care provider. If the adjuster believes an independent medical examination is required, he or she should insist that the medical examiner be truly independent. Most insureds and their attorneys, and most claimants and their attorneys, believe that independent medical examiners are not independent, but believe that they are owned by the insurer. The adjuster should never attempt to change the opinion of an independent medical examiner, even if it is contrary to the interest of the insured and the insurer. If the IME retained is capable and honorable, the adjuster must respect the findings of the IME. It should be obvious that every adjuster must avoid personal liability. The adjuster must never enter into a conspiracy to defraud an insured or a claimant. When an independent medical examiner's report is required, the adjuster should act so as to ensure that the report is scrupulously independent, or risk becoming a defendant, paying extreme punitive damages for a conspiracy to defraud an insured. In Yunnan v. Equifax, Inc., a 1980 decision of the California Court of Appeal, the insured successfully claimed that the investigator-adjuster conspired with an IME to deprive the plaintiff of the benefits of his disability policy. The court believed the allegation that the investigator instructed the doctor what to find and what to write in his report. Yunnan involved allegations that the defendant insurer American Home hired and employed defendant Equifax, Inc. to select and induce a local doctor to examine the plaintiff and prepare a medical report which would falsify the plaintiff's condition. The plaintiff alleged that American Home retained Equifax, knowing that Equifax worked with doctors who would participate in the scheme to prepare false medical reports. The prudent adjuster should learn to read and understand medical reports. Modern reports are all now computerized and easy to read, but if you run across an old-fashioned doctor who writes everything and his notes are difficult to decipher, the adjuster can retain the services of a forensic nurse who is trained to read and explain doctor's instructions. This video was adapted from my book Zelma on Insurance Claims, Part 107, Second Edition, which is the 7th volume of the 10-volume treatise Zelma on insurance claims, all of which are available from Amazon.com as both Kindle books and paperbacks. If you found this video to be interesting or useful to your colleagues, please pass it on. It's free. And please also subscribe to my Rumble channel, my YouTube channel, my blog, and to my Substack file. Thank you for your attention.